Part 2 after.
Trustee Walker?
Present.
Trustee Gallegos? Trustee Tahada?
Here.
Vice President Slavadine?
Here.
President Lee?
Here. Great. All right, item 3, approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening?
There are no changes.
There a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Item 4, approval of minutes, board minutes from January 10th, 2023. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve board meeting minutes for January 10th, 2023. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right. Item 5A, one of our favorite things, January Student of the Month. Is Principal Carrier.
It is my pleasure to present Jalon Bisson-Young as Jefferson Union High School District Student of the Month for January 2023. Currently a senior at Terra Nova, Jalon is a star who has left an impact throughout our fine arts community, on her peers, on her teachers, and our larger school community. They say that anyone can be an artist, but a true artist is measured by how their work makes others feel, because at its core, art should make you feel something. So by that measure, as an artist, you are exemplary, because you inspire all those who are fortunate to work alongside you. A member of the Terra Nova Band, Jalon is a color guard captain who has written and taught all of the choreography performed at our competitions, parades, football games, and rallies. Underclassmen and their fellow seniors alike look up to you for guidance and wisdom. You have encouraged other band members to participate in independent marching band activities by seeking out resources and sharing them. According to Mr. Bishop, our band director, the encouragement that Jalon provides has made a grand impact on the Terra Nova Band being a warm and welcoming place. The band family at Terra Nova would be profoundly different without her presence. Jalon has also been a participant in our drama program since her freshman year. A true techie, a workhorse, a very humble and unassuming leader. When tech went digital during at-home learning, Jalon led the way and kept the class moving forward. As Mr. Schneider describes, when things need to get done, she gets on it. This year, she designed the poster for the fall play Rhinoceros and figured out how to sprout horns magically on an actor during a scene. You have the innate ability to put the pieces together to make things work and flow, which enhances the entire production and experience for your co-stars, techies, producers, and the entire audience. And as a student, you exceed expectations time and again. Although reserved in nature, you lead by example, a quality that leaves your teachers in awe. Mr. Kolvig, our yearbook advisor, shared, as editor-in-chief, Jalon has proved to be highly skilled at organizing mass amounts of information, delegating tasks to classmates, and communicating at a very high level. Somehow, everything works better when she's around, and it isn't an accident. You teach while learning, and you're especially adept at helping classmates learn and work to their best of their abilities. Because as a friend, you're described as shining daily, with a selflessness all too rare in our culture. You're seen and respected by your peers and the staff as not working to benefit yourself, but for putting the time and effort in for others. You're seen as giving simply because it is your nature, always putting others' wants and needs ahead of your own. You are truly an asset of the highest caliber to Terra Nova High School, and you have left a long-lasting impact on our school community and on those who have had the good fortune to work alongside you. We will miss you terribly when you leave, but we have no doubt that you will succeed at every endeavor you attempt. So on behalf of Terra Nova High School and the Jefferson Union High School District, we congratulate Jalon on being selected as the district's January Student of the Month.
Open up to the board for any comments. Mr. Walker?
John, congratulations. I met you when you were an 8th grader. Since then, I've gotten to know that you've been extremely creative, you're intelligent, you're talented. You've been a great friend of my daughter. You've made your family proud, and I extend congratulations from my family as well. My daughter would be here, but she has school commitments tonight. I'd just like to sum it all up by saying it is more surprising that I'm sitting here than it is that you are sitting there.
Congratulations. Keep doing the good work. Keep impressing your peers, the people around you. Keep working hard. You know, the small things like this, they add up in life. So you just keep doing those things, and before you know it, you get where you want to go, and I'm sure you'll be impressing us for a long time to come. Congratulations.
Congratulations. You know, I know you've been such a big asset to the Terra Nova community, but you also make us proud that we have someone like you helping your classmates, leading. It sounds like you're a strong, quiet leader, unassuming, and I know you're just going to do great things in the future, and I look forward to it. And check back with us, because I'm sure we all would like to know what great things you're going to be doing in the future.
Just echo the sentiments of my board mates. We all are, pretty much volunteers, and we do this work, and we don't really get to see much of it because we have full-time jobs. So it's nice to have students come in here and talk about and hear about their successes. You have so many people that were supporting you that you were unaware of, and we're all those advocates, and we'll continue to be strong supporters of you wherever you go in the future. So thank you to you, and thank you to your family.
Student trustees, anything you want to add?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So band, theater, yearbook, anything else? Because that's incredible. I mean, three major areas. So thank you for your contributions, and we're excited to see what you're going to do next. Congratulations, much deserved. All right. Yeah, well, let's do a picture.
Looking this way, right? 1, 2, 3. One more to say. Thank you. Congratulations.
You don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Congratulations, yeah.
I know.
All right, so we'll move on to item 6A, board report. We'll start with our student trustees at the far end. Ms. Internician, would you like to kick us off?
Yeah, so first things first, my name's Aaliyah. I'm a senior at Westmore, just to start things off if I haven't met you guys personally. So I'm representing Westmore for the student trustees. Westmore has been actually really calm lately. There hasn't really been any arising problems as of late. But one major event that's coming up right now is just our winter ball.
She set the standard too high. I kind of forgot. Okay, so I'm Dante. I'm from Jeff. I'm a junior, and yeah, kind of similar thing going on over at Jeff. Very calm. I felt very like laid back and chill, but also the same as Westmore. We got our winter ball coming up this Saturday. It's gonna be pretty cool. Yeah, that's the only major thing I could think. Oh, no, that's it. Yeah.
Great. Mr. Walker?
Nothing to report at this time.
Well, since we have a Jeff student and a Westmore student here, I was at the quad games this past last Friday.
Nice.
Speaking from the Jeff alum side, it was a pretty good turnout there. My daughter plays for the varsity team, so we were there supporting, and it was a good turnout. Lot of students, really good game. It was fun to be there. It was fun to watch. I had a good time doing it.
All right.
So I was at the Student Advisory Council meeting last night. Very, very good meeting, as always. Actually, Jefferson has Mission Fusion coming up in February. I think it's 9, 10, 11. And you can go to the website to buy your tickets. And also, they're still accepting applications for the Daly City Youth Poet Laureate. The Daly City Public Library Associates is accepting applications until January 31st. So students have a chance to be the Youth Poet Laureate for Daly City, which includes a $5,000 honorarium. And our current Youth Poet Laureate is Chloe Chow from Westmore. And for more information and to apply, go to dcpla.org.
So the two things that I went to that I'll highlight is the San Mateo County School Boards Association new board member orientation that was held here. And I want to thank Superintendent Presta for being the superintendent representative for all the counties, talking about the board superintendent relationship. Did a fantastic job. Made us very proud. I was like, yeah, that's my soup. And I also was at the student advisory meeting, which was my final meeting as there. But I have had a fantastic time serving on as the board on that board subcommittee. And I'm tossing it off to really reliable hands, and I'm excited to work with you guys in the future and see your presentations, because they talked a lot about what they're gonna be working and presenting to the board, and I'm excited about that. And then lastly, I just want to end by sending my condolences to the Half Moon Bay community. It was kind of crazy to hear about the back-to-back shootings that happened. And, we just came from a time when we were afraid to go outside. And then we're able to go outside now, and then you have that fear kind of reintroduced. But again, letting folks know that the two organizations that are accepting donations for the Half Moon Bay community are ALAS, ALAS, if you look it up, or Coastside Hope. If you just Google each one of those, links to their pages connect you to the donation sites. A lot of, it's not just for the victims, but a lot of the incidents happen on 2 farms, and a lot of people live on those farms. They're migrant workers, and they haven't been able to go back home because it's a crime scene. So just helping them, those that are displaced, and also assisting the families. And also just saying that through all of this, and I think about this even as a school board member in our school sites, not wanting to survive but continue to live, and just always being resilient and hoping that, we have a society where we can feel safe, in our own homes and in our own communities. That's all.
I echo those sentiments, and it's been that, yeah, my thoughts are certainly with our neighboring community of Half Moon Bay. I mean, it's just numbing, really, that it would be that close to home. And to see, our school board member colleagues posting sorts of stuff that we hope we never have to post. And also just being an Asian American and to see back to back hitting the AAPI community these past couple of days has been kind of numbing for me and really pretty hard at the start of the Lunar New Year. Heck of a way to do that. But it just goes to show that not a single one of us is immune to this. It's hitting everybody. I mean, over the past how many years now that we keep talking about this over and over again, every single one of us knows somebody some way personally by these events. And while I certainly can't change the world, I can help change this corner of the world. And I'm proud to be able to represent this community with the people up here to try and do the best that we can to support the 4,000 students, the 500 staff, and their families. It's I don't hold this responsibility lightly. I know none of us up here do, and we take it with we take it with the seriousness that it deserves, but also the joy that comes along with it as well, as we've shared up here so far. So with that, Ms. Presta.
Thank you. So I'll start by saying I did send, we sent a message home to the community today about the shootings. It's shocking. It's there really aren't words that do it justice. I will say that I want everybody here to know, I hope that came through in the message today, that we are a strong community and we need to support each other because it's so close, it's just that much scarier, I think, for all of us. So I'm happy that we've got a very thriving wellness team in our district. Our wellness team has been dealing with a lot, I mean, not just this, there's a lot going on for our students these days. And so I just want to thank them for all that they're doing and kind of let them know that I see them and what they're going through as well. And I was able to talk to my superintendent colleagues and asked, do you have enough wellness counselors? Because we can help. And they did. They were okay, but it felt good. I was proud knowing that we have a really solid staff here. But just extending my deep condolences and just want to say that we have to. This has to stop. It has to stop. I really don't have a big report. I enjoyed speaking to the San Mateo County School Board Association. I won't lie, I was sort of like, really, Saturday? At first, and then I was really glad I did it. The other presentations, Kalima did a great presentation with Hector Camacho from San Mateo County School Board Association on the history of education. I was there for a few of the presentations. They were all really good, and I was very heartened by the people that were in the room, the new school board members that were able to attend. I think it's a really good group of people. So that bodes well for our county. And then finally, I'm going to be leaving after this meeting to drive down to Monterey for the Superintendent's Association, the Superintendent's Conference. And just want to put another shout out to my executive cabinet that I can go to a conference for a couple of days and know that the district is well taken care of. And with that, that's it for me.
FT 1481 report, Ms. Casey.
Good evening, everyone. I don't have much to report either. Coming up in a couple of weeks, AFT 1481, we have 2 people, myself included, going to a leadership conference down in Los Angeles for a couple days. And CFT is having a convention in a little less than a month, a little more than a month, sorry. So that's globally. And then here at our district, we are involved in a committee with HR trying to improve the evaluation process and the PAR process, which is peer assistance review, which is connected to evaluations, but we're trying to improve those processes, and so lots of fun working on more paperwork and wording. So that's about all right now. Thank you.
Do we have a COVID-19 update tonight?
We do not.
Okay, great. All right, moving on to consent. Is there a motion to approve consent?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Item 9, public comment. Do we have any public comments this evening? No, we do not. Okay, great. Then we'll go on down to item 10A1, Board Liaison Assignments 22-23. I believe this specifically is related to the Audit Committee. Ms. Presta?
Yeah, so it was brought up that proposed to start an audit committee. And so we brought it back for this meeting to see if anybody wanted to join. I met with Deputy Superintendent Van Raphorst about what the audit committee might look like and what their function might be, because this will be the first time that we're doing it here in this district, and we think it's a good idea. And so I don't know if you wanted to say a little bit about what we were thinking it might look like, and I thought we might, the board, you guys might want to discuss what you might want it to look like as well. So, Tina?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So when it was brought up, the audit committee idea, I spoke with our colleagues at Pacifica School District, who already has an audit committee, and learned that what they do is they just meet once annually to go over the audit report prior to it coming to the board. So our audits are done once a year. Usually they're finished by the end of January. Then in Pacifica, the person in my position meets with the two subcommittee members and the auditor, and they do an in-depth dive into the audit report. And then after that, the full report comes to the board for approval. And then those committee members can decide whether or not they want the auditor to still come to the board meeting, or whether they feel like they can explain it, or ask the auditor to highlight specific things for the board, just provide the auditor with that kind of feedback. As you know, the auditors are our best tool in making sure that we're following all of the requirements, as well as protecting the district against fraud or any kind of mishandling of public funds. Does that sound like what the board had in mind?
Yes, that's exactly it. Thank you.
So just one time per year, 2 members.
All right, so I'll just put it out there. Who wants to be on the Audit Committee?
I'm interested in being on the audit committee.
Okay.
I can do it,
All right,
unless
so
anyone else, unless I jumped ahead of anybody.
And then we will start it approximately a year from now, since the audit report is coming before the board tonight. So it will come, we'll have a meeting when the next audit report comes out.
perfect. All right. Thank you both. All right, if nothing else, then we can go on to item B1, Adult Programs Update. Ms. Batra, and I presume we're going to introduce Mr. Bashirs.
President Lee, tonight I would like to introduce Principal Bashirs, Principal of Jefferson Adult Division, who will provide us with updates. Mr. Bashirs?
Thank you, Ms. Maka. Am I good here, Jake? Am I just pushing forward? Excellent, wonderful. All right. Thank you, Board of Trustees, President Lee, Superintendent Presta, and the rest of the executive cabinet. I'm really pleased with this opportunity to get to give you guys an update, and particularly for Trustee Gallegos and Trustee Walker to be able to familiarize you guys with the program that we have. A little bit about myself. I came to the district in 2001 as a student teacher. I taught at Jefferson starting in 2002. Been in the district this entire time. Eventually went over to Terra Nova as the vice principal in 2013. Came back to Jeff as the principal in 2016. And then 2020-21, that was when I came over here to the adult program. I'm also the co-director of the Excel Consortium, which includes all of the adult schools in San Mateo County, as well as the community colleges. So there's one adult school director, and there's one community school representative there, and then the executive director. And so, like I said, yeah, we're part of the Excel Consortium. We're two different programs. So when I came here, the board had decided that they wanted one principal to oversee both programs. Prior to that, they were separate. We have the Jefferson Adult Education, which focuses on English as a second language, the adult school diploma, high school equivalency, career and technical exploration, as well as enrichment classes. On the ATP side, these are the 18 to 22-year-olds students who are on IEPs. There we're focused on life skills, functional academics, and work training. Both programs, we do have separate funding sources, just so you know. ATP is average daily attendance, just like you would find at a high school. At the adult ed side, we're funded. There's what they call the California Adult Education Program. That's a state grant. That's about $1.6 million. We also receive a federal grant. We owe it to the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. That's, as you can see, last year that was about $330,000 right there. And then our enrichment classes, those are fee-based classes. So student attendance is what keeps those classes running. There will be some changes to the way, the governor's just put out his proposed budget. The Legislative Analyst's Office has gone through and looked at the way that they've been funding adult education. There is a proposal that's been put out there. On February 3rd, I'll be attending the California Adult Education something or other conference, and we'll learn more about what our new funding is going to be like. They're doing some good things, I think. They're definitely looking at how do we trim the fat. It is going to mean tightening the belt in some ways. So but that really is to be expected right now. So to focus on the adult transition program first, honestly, when Terry DeLoria first mentioned to me that the position was coming open, it was the fact that she told me adult transition was going to be a part of it that really sold it for me. It's a fabulous student population and a great group of teachers that are working with them. The focus is mainly on life skills. How do you read a bus schedule? How do you follow a recipe? Functional academics, things, counting back change, those kind of things, and as well as job training, trying to, prepare our students for the workforce. A little bit more on that. We moved this year to an academic rotation. We wanted the experience to mirror a little, a lot of our students are coming to us from Oceania. We wanted the experience to mirror a little bit more what was going on over there. They're in their homeroom for a couple of periods a day. The final period of the day, they're doing what we call the academic rotation. So they'll move around to different classrooms, depending on the day of the week. One of the classes, functional mathematics, and that involves everything. They're learning how to read credit card statements. They're learning how to count back change. Some things that we may take for granted, but we want to make sure our students know when they're going out there into the world. Also, they'll have a science and a health period, and the science is a lot based on environmental science. Our students are just as interested in the environment as you would find on any of our campuses, as well as health issues. Their other period will be language skills. They go there and they're focused on the kind of conversations they might need to have in social settings, as well as if they're going in for a job interview. And then civics, our students, they're eligible to vote. They can get jury summons, and so the teacher focuses on lessons that will be, apropos for that. The work training, You guys can see it when I write it in the board updates. I cannot say enough about our transition services program here. They're just a fabulous group. You know, what they're focusing on over there is, you know, they help students find a job. They provide training. They provide on-the-job coaching while they're there. But this, and this picture does not do it justice, you know, they have their work studies room or their work studies lab in there, and if you ever get a chance to go into the room, you know, here, the student was working on bagging groceries and loading up a grocery cart. There's a cash register over there. There are, you know, like end caps like you might find in, you know, in any store where they do restocking. There's busing, you know, learning how to fold clothes, you know, because a number of our students will go and work at Old Navy perhaps, or, you know, we have students at Walgreens, Dave & Buster's, just name a few of the local businesses that give jobs to our students. And when you go in there and you watch the students work, it's very uplifting, and it's really great, because some of our students, you know, are nonverbal. They may not be ready to enter the workforce yet, but our transition services team, they start working with them on day one when they come in here to try to get them ready, you know, for that experience. And then we move on to what we do over at Adult Ed. English is a second language. Now, I was an EL teacher while I was over at Jefferson. I'm still pushing my department and the rest of the consortium to abandon English as a second language as a term, because many of our students speak 3, 4 different languages, you know. I want to do more like what they're doing over at, you know, either we go English language learners, like we refer to them here in high school, or at Skyline, it's English for speakers of other languages, ESOL. So anyway, I just had to get that in there. We have several different locations. We're not back to all the places we were in before the pandemic yet, but you know, we do have our classes here in the day and in the evening at Saramonte. We also have the evening classes over at Jefferson High School. War Memorial was very generous. They were the first place to let us come back in. We have a multi-level class there during the day. Just getting back into our second home, and that was took a while to find the right teacher. You know, right now we are currently registering students, and we are doing the testing and, you know, doing the correct placement for them. So really excited to be back there. We also have online classes, and that, in light of what you know, we're learning about funding and needing to meet students' needs, yeah, we're going to have to expand our online opportunities. You know, right now we have a day and an evening class, but I'd like to see that expand next year. You know. Oh, and Bayshore is we're talking, so hopefully we're going to be opening up that site again pretty soon. What we've been doing, we started doing this work during the pandemic, and we're continuing it. You know, while I was over at Jefferson, the district generously, you know, made Eric Twaddell and you know, his training around PLC work available to us. I'm wanting to bring what I learned over there and what we were starting to do at Jefferson over to Adult Ed. Really, what we're looking at is you know, what they call the guaranteed viable curriculum. You know, we want to know. I want my students, if they're taking a class here in the day or in the evening, or if they go over to Jefferson, you know, that they know that they're going to get the same quality lessons, that classes will be, you know, following a pacing guide, that they're using common assessments, and that we're going back and looking at the common assessments and looking at student data. How are they doing? You know, what do we do when a student learns? Because you need to extend opportunities. What do we do when a student doesn't learn? Is that time to reteach? You know, how does the data impact how we view our practices, you know, as teachers? And that's been the work that we've been doing. My basic team right now, and these are the folks I think have the hardest challenge when they're doing. I mean, these are people who are coming to them that have almost no English skills whatsoever. And they did a presentation at our staff development day at the beginning of the semester where they showed how they defined their essential standards, how they came up with their pacing guide. They've actually gone through and they've done common assessments for that entire group. And then they've gone back and they looked at the data. And so they were presenting to the other PLCs, this is how it's supposed to look. You know, so that's what we'll be following up on this semester. We're also renewing our partnership with Skyline. There were a couple of MOUs out there that were basically frozen, you know, when we went into the pandemic, and they're not really apropos now. So our TOSA, that's our teacher on special assignment, and I have been meeting with their ESOL department. Actually, this Friday, we'll be bringing our teachers over to Skyline for a mixer with their ESOL department. We'll reciprocate later in the semester. They'll bring their ESOL department over here, and we'll set up the Galleria. I'll make sure you guys are all invited to that. And we're sharing what our practices are, learning more about, how do we streamline the transition of our students to Skyline, if that's, part of their goals. And then we also have our adult school diploma and high school equivalency, the GED. Prior to the pandemic, very robust program. During the pandemic, we saw a lot of students drop off. A lot of that's, because students were qualifying for the California minimum. Others just, like many people, they just kind of drifted away during that time, and so we're bringing those students back. The two teachers that ran that program both left to take on other opportunities. We were fortunate enough to, in the fall, we hired Amy Wong back. She used to work for us and then went to South City, and then she's come back to us now. She's been kind of running the whole program on her own. Did you guys have your personnel action report? Did you guys already approve? Was that earlier tonight?
Yes.
Good, then I can say this part. And so thanks to you guys, we have our other teacher that will be joining us starting tomorrow, and that's Robert Rustia, formerly of Oceana, also taught over at Cappuccino. He came to me and said, hey, I want to teach adults, and I said, good, because I need GED. This guy's done chemistry, physics, biology, he's got all the math, he's going to be a fabulous addition to the program and is very enthusiastic. Something else, and Ms. Baca will be addressing this with you guys later. The consortium is moving to lower the credit requirement to get the adult school diploma. And that's really to be in line with the counties that are around us. It's a lot, like if you go down to Drew Gammett's program down there in La Costa, it's 145 credits there. Alameda, Contra Costa, over there you'll find that, much lower credits. And so we wanted to be in line with those programs. And, but Ms. Baca will tell you a bit more about that. I'm also really concerned, and this was one of my big concerns when I came over here, and I think this is because I was an EL teacher and because I was at Jefferson. How are we serving our EL students? Are we making opportunities for them? We know that many of our students, they may immigrate here at 16, 17, and they have to be classified as perhaps a freshman, a sophomore. They're not going to be on diploma track. But we need them to be working on those skills so that when they do come to us, and this is what we provide, we're that other insurance layer, to the district. I think we're giving quality instruction at our sites, but there are always going to be students, for whatever reason, fall behind on credits. They need a place to go. And so we do have a Spanish GED teacher who works in the evenings and on Saturdays. I'm looking to expand that to the day, and in fact, this teacher is interested in coming over and doing that for us in the daytime. So we're hoping that grows, as well as getting our students into our ESL classes and getting them interested in perhaps, I'm getting ahead of myself. And then one of the things we're also doing, we moved from Apex to Edgenuity. They've been using that over there they've used it at South City. Our continuation program uses it. We spend a little bit extra on it. It's another $15 a license that the student then also has access to a teacher online, a fully credentialed teacher, so that they can get extra help while they're doing that. So, and then we have our career and technical training classes. And this is where, we want to move our students towards, it's the whole mission of adult education in California. We want to move our students to, getting a meaningful work or whatever their post-secondary, ambitions are. Office assistant program is exactly what it sounds like. It's been, something that Jeff Adult has offered for a long time, just the kind of skills you would need to come in and get that job, working towards becoming an office manager, receptionist. But we wanted to bolster that. What was previously our office communication class, we've turned it into business communication. Mike Brust teaches that class with one of our ESL teachers, Mr. Mark Santamaria. The goal here is to help students develop a business plan that they can go and present. This is the first semester we've offered it. It's kind of a pilot program, but it's definitely something, when you look at the CTE survey data that the consortium did last year, when you look in our areas, North County, there's a lot of interest in obviously getting into the medical field, and South San Francisco has a medical assistant program over there. The other big one is entrepreneurship. So, we want to help, hey, what is your goal? How can we help you develop a business plan? And that's what that class is focused on. We also have, in conjunction, this is a dual enrollment class with Skyline, the NetX program. This is to basically help Jake when it comes time to hire IT professionals. The class focuses on intro to LAN, on PC configuration and repair, structured cablings, all these things that I can talk about without knowing at all what they are. We rely on people like Jake out there to do it. And so we've got our first cohort going through right now. That class is based in one of the portables over at Westmore. We built a lovely lab there for students to work. There won't be any classes going on over there this spring. That was because Skyline inadvertently scheduled another class that those students need that happen on campus. And so they're pushing that cohort. They'll come back during the summer. And then we'll be starting our new cohort over there in the fall. For the future, and the first one up there, I'm really excited about the digital media and arts class, as I say, taught by Jefferson teacher extraordinaire, Ms. Christina Lewis. While I was the principal at Jefferson, if anybody asked me what our crown jewels were over there, one of the things I'd point to was the digital arts class. She developed that curriculum. When we first presented it to Skyline to see if they'd be interested in doing it as a dual enrollment, their digital media program kind of, they balked at it. They're like, well, there's no way that a high school teacher is going to present a curriculum that's going to be rigorous enough. And until they looked at the curriculum that she had developed and noticed, like, well, wait a minute, she's not just teaching them how to use the software. She focuses on style. She builds a LinkedIn profile with these students. They get an Adobe certification that they can embed into that LinkedIn profile. She has a very complete program over there. And that will start in the fall. We're also working with one of Jake's team members, Oscar Zamora, to develop a computer skills 1 and 2 class. Many of our students come in, I'm not kidding when I say this, during the pandemic, I had many students that it was like, this is a keyboard, this is the power button, this is your index finger, and this is how you turn on your computer. We were starting absolutely from there. So, and that's really where, we want this first course to go. Course 2 would start to open up the possibility then of going into the NetX class, taking something a little bit more, challenging and moving yourself towards an IT pathway. And at this one, look, this is a gleam in my eye, but this came up. Kenyatta College mentioned it brought it up to me, and they're looking at starting a mortuary sciences program at Kenyatta, and they were like, what would you guys think about doing a mortuary assistant program, being in Daly City and Colma? Kind of seems natural. Like I said, it's a twinkle in my eye. It's we're just now starting to explore it, but I'm excited about the possibility. And then we have our enrichment opportunities. Some of you may have even taken some of these classes before. We have 2 classes over at Westmore, the ceramics and the wood skills class. I'm telling you, Sherry Chagoyan and John Levine could start a new religion if they wanted to. I mean, the people that go to those classes, they keep coming back. And they're also getting new students all the time. Sherry was actually concerned that she just said, I can't do it, but that she had the numbers that she could have opened up a second class. They're great programs, and I love going over there and visiting them because you also just see how dedicated the students are that are coming there. And, if you live in the city, you've got, City College, extended learning, there's always, this is our version of that here. JR, the very able Spanish teacher from Terra Nova, he teaches a Spanish class at Jefferson High School. It's been on Tuesday nights. I believe he's moving to Monday nights this semester. But hey, if you're interested in taking Spanish, you can sign up for his class. And then during the pandemic, of course, we had to, cancel our band program. I mean, you just can't have a bunch of people, blowing COVID at each other, in the same room. But I don't think a week went by that I wasn't getting emails. Are we going to start the program again? When is it going to happen again? Have you found a new director for this program? Have you tried this person? Call this guy up. I mean, it just kept going on and on. And we finally found Jill Hendricks. She teaches over at Washington in the city. She also does many other, youth organizations, and so she expressed an interest. This is her second semester since we put the band back together. We had our winter concert, and it wasn't very holiday, I mean, they did do Jingle Bells at the end. That was the one little nod there, but they were doing like Broadway tunes and some light classics. She brought in some of the musicians from her youth chamber ensemble. We had musicians on stage from age 13 to 89. And, and getting to meet these guys, I mean, there was a trumpet player that I met, he's got maybe about 4 teeth left in his mouth. And he said, I wouldn't keep my chops up if it weren't for this class. And these are people who are retired, and the meaning it gives them to be able to come in, to continue working on their sight reading skills, to make good music and to commune with one another, is why we really like keeping that program going. We also, I'm glad you were talking about, wellness earlier. We added a counselor when I came over. We always have had a transition navigator. You'll find those at every adult school. That person works with students on where are you going next? What do you want to get out of college? Are you looking in trades, and helps connect them with programs. We wanted somebody who could also meet the students that are coming to us from high school, but also work with all of our students in terms of connecting them to services, and so we added a counselor. And thanks to Melissa Ambrose, we also have a wellness counselor this year. She's an intern, but she's been absolutely invaluable. It could be very, very difficult. There's services for, basically up until you're 18, and then it gets really hard sometimes to find, services. And so Christina Kabilis does a great job with that. And provides, the wellness support, not just for our adult students, but also with our ATP students. So, and as you can see, I included that flyer. I think that's actually, was this morning. They worked with the Daly City Youth Health Center to have a wellness, seminar here, So, trying to provide services that we haven't been able to provide before. So where are we heading? Thanks to you guys. I know you're very familiar with that picture up there. I was an English teacher, so I look at it as both literal and figurative. What are we building to put into this new building, that you guys have built for us? And when I say stronger curriculum, I think we have a rigorous curriculum, but we're looking at, through the PLC work that we're doing, we really want to focus on student achievement. With the academic rotation that we're doing in ATP, we're really looking at creating a program that builds up the self-esteem, of our adult transition students, as well as get them ready for what their ambitions are. We want it to be an adult class. We want it to be age appropriate. We do want more CTE offerings, and that's including pathways that are appropriate for our ATP students. There's a number of our students that take classes at Skyline, but we think that there's other options, that do come with. I mean, we've got students that are interested in getting the ServSafe certificate, things that end with industry certifications that they can take and go and get a job. And I'm looking at really building our relationships with the community colleges. I think that there's a very natural synergy there. What I found when I came to the consortium is that not everybody plays in the sandbox well with one another, but we're building relationships now. There's been a lot of turnover. I was really getting along with Russell Walden over at Skyline, but he's moving on. He's going down south. We'll have somebody new over there. But, also, Andrea Visinor over at CSM. We've got Julian Branch over at Kenyatta. I'm really getting to build new relationships. And there's something to that. If we're getting our students ready with programs like NetX, where you earn industry certifications, but you're also getting college credit, all that does is open doors, for our students. And that's really what our mission is at the Jefferson Adult Division. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Great, thank you. Open it up to the board for any questions or comments.
No questions, but, you've taken on a lot there. I mean, it's just thinking about how tough it is, I think, for people to come into the country and try to get educated and probably most of them working at the same time, trying to provide for families, how intimidating that is. Just knowing people that I've worked with that are trying to do something like that and how difficult it is to stay consistent and stay in these programs, you know. And so I think I commend you and people like you for trying to, you know, bridge that gap where these people get left behind usually. And
That is the big challenge. You know,
Yeah.
we need to be flexible. We need to meet the students where they are because of those very things that you're mentioning. They are working. They have families at home. They're trying to do all of this. And it's one of the things that makes you just love these students when you meet them because you realize, you know, they're coming to you with a ton of life experience and a lot of character.
intimidating. I mean, you know, I can't imagine going to another country and having to just immerse myself into their world and try to pick up all their, everything that they've learned, their way of life, the things that you're teaching them, with their life skills. I mean, a lot of that I think we should teach our younger kids in school as well too. So, might send my kids over to learn how to fold clothes. But no, thank you for what you're doing. It's good to see that it's out there in the community for these people for sure. Yeah.
I just want to thank you again for caring so much. You know, there are times when I come to the district office during the day and I just see what you're doing. You're not just running, doing all of this, but you're working with the students and, you know, helping them and caring for them and playing the ukulele for them. I mean.
But I do magic tricks for it.
Magic trips. Yeah, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna get misty. When you left Jefferson, my daughter was really unhappy that you left, although she loved Keisha. But I was really happy that you took this on. And just to see you with the students is very heartwarming, but this program's in good hands. For you to take on co-director of the Cell Consortium, what a huge thing. And I know, for me, a lot of any extracurriculars I do, it's anything I do, I'm always keeping JUHSD in mind. And I think, you know, how is it going to help? How is my networking there going to help our district? I'm always thinking that, and I think, you know, you're doing that as well.
It was Diana Rumney that really,
Oh,
you know,
gosh,
that
yeah.
she told me, she said, look, you know, join Chamber of Commerce. Get on the President's Council over at Skyline, you know. You know, she said that, you know, one of the biggest things that you can do is make those connections in the community,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
So I've tried to live up to that charge.
Oh, yes, yes. But I just thank you for everything that you're doing here. And I think just your motto, basically opening doors for our students. I mean, all of our students. And I can't wait for us to open up that new building. You know. I know the students are really excited about that.
Are we all going to be here when the wrecking ball comes? A bottle of champagne, maybe?
Thank you.
Thank you guys for the opportunity.
So to echo the sentiments, I'm thankful that you're continuing on the work of Diana Romney, because it's very important, just not for the local level, but also the county level, that our voices are heard because, you know, we serve a very different clientele. And a lot of times they're designing programs or having discussions about programs that will affect us without our voices in the room. So I'm glad that you're on the county consortium because it is important that North County is represented. My question was just on staffing. I know we talked a lot about how our staffing is okay now, but I'm wanting to know more about the adult education and how that staffing is going.
It's hard finding teachers. It's really hard right now, you know. And, you know, even though I've got good relationships with with the other adult school directors in the consortium, you know, there will be times Angela Taylor will call me up and she's like, yeah, I know you interviewed this person, but I'm making an offer too, you know? And I don't think we begrudge one another that when it happens, because it's the same thing when you're a high school principal too, you know? I mean, we're all kind of jockeying for the same group of teachers. It wasn't too helpful when Berkeley closed down their credential program. Thank you to Dana for finding CSU San Bernardino has a fully online program. And I know we've got one student or one teacher that's working to get their preliminary credential. No, two right now that are going through that program there. So that made a huge difference. Thank you, Dana. And you know, teamwork makes the dream work, right? We'll find it somehow.
And then just really, that's just the cute part is, I don't know anybody else that would get a glimmer in their eye over mortuaries, but but I do understand, and I think that's really smart, because again, taking advantage of the industry that's here, we have so much industry here that people take advantage of, or don't know how to enter. You know, especially we drive by it every day, but they have no idea, like, how do I get into that field? So thank you for doing that. And again, just talking about the services that we provide, I'm so proud of our district and our ongoing commitment to both programs, regardless of our, you know, despite our funding. Because I know there were some tough times in there, and it was hard to continue, but, you know, this is what our community needs. And if you go to the graduations of each of the programs, you can hear the stories. You understand why it's vital that these programs continue to stay. So I'm very glad that our district is not just sustaining, but helping it thrive. And I'm excited for the new building to see what else we can do once we actually have surroundings that are reflective of the students and the teachers and staff that are working in the program. So thank you.
Other comments, questions? Just want to say thank you again, I mean, for all the work you're doing. It's actually pretty awe-inspiring when you actually see the breadth of the work that we do. I mean, it's one thing to just sort of know and read about it in our weekly recap, but for you to actually encapsulate it here tonight, all, you know, in 13 slides is exactly what I think we need to see, and for the larger community to be able to see that this is what we do and this is how we take care of our adult students and especially the ATP students as well. And I share your excitement about that brand new building that's, you know, that managed to survive the, you know, 40 days and 40 nights of rain. So thank you again, Mr.
I've been meaning to drive by and look at the lot. It still looks fine.
We saw some aerial photos. It looks good. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark.
All right. Next item is this 2022 school dashboard presentation. Ms. Baca.
Well, Mr. Meyer is pulling that up. I can start. So good evening. Tonight, I'll be presenting one of my favorite topics of the year. It's back, California School Dashboard for JUHSD. So just as a reminder, the dashboard is part of the comprehensive accountability system for California that combines the requirements for the federal government and then the state government. It has local and state measures. And what it's used for is really to assist districts in identifying strengths, weaknesses, and areas for improvement. It also tells us if we need assistance, if the county can give us some assistance, or if we need like intensive support. So tonight I'll be covering just a quick overview of the dashboard and then the results for our district and then some of school and district strategies for improvement. So what is the dashboard? It's an online tool that displays multiple measures of state and local performance to assist in identifying strengths and challenges of districts, schools, and student groups. It has many, many different parts, so it's multiple measures again. So it has 5 local indicators, These indicators were presented to you in June of 2022. And how they are reported is that it is collected by the district and it's actually submitted by the district as well. It also has 6 state indicators. So with these indicators, they come from data collected through CalPADS. So CalPADS is the state's database system that reads off of our student information system. Some of the data also comes from other sources like College Board or educational testing services. As you can see, the chronic absenteeism is highlighted in blue because we are a high school district. They do not report chronic absenteeism for us. Instead, they report the college and career indicator. So some of the key points for this year, as you know, because of COVID, the scores, we did not have dashboard for the 20 and 21 school year. And now it has just started. And so it's basically, the message is this is a restart of the accountability system. In the past, we used to have colors, red, orange, yellow, green, and blue. And it's based on the status and then whether we improve or did not improve. But because we did not have data from the previous years, we're gonna start from the very beginning with just the status. So instead of the colors, you'll see this kind of like cell phone looking bars, but purple, very purple. And it ranges from very low to very high. For most of the indicators, very high means that we're doing well, but very low means that there needs to be some kind of attention somehow, some way. So not doing too well. One indicator that is the reverse though is suspension. So for suspension, the very low is what we would like, and we do not want very high. But otherwise, it is, very low to very high.
A reason why? I mean, when I was reading this, I was confused by why. I mean, what's the difference between why change to? They're not staying with the bars, right? They're going to go back to colors.
Next year in the 23 dashboard, they're going to go back with the colors because you start off with what is your score this year? And then based on that score, they have to determine like, did you improve or did you not improve? So that's when you get the other layers to it. So it's really about improvement, not just the status. Because we didn't have the scores last year, they couldn't really tell us whether we improved or not.
Okay, I got it. I mean, okay, I'm just saying they could have just changed the meaning of the colors. I mean, that's but I get what you're saying. Yeah, okay.
That'd be too easy.
Okay, I was just, okay, I got it
So
now.
2022 is a new baseline, basically.
Basically.
Okay.
One other change that they did for the 22 dashboard is that for this year, all of the state indicators for our students with disabilities, the district of residence gets the scores for the students even though they're outside of our district. So they send us their scores back for the district. But what's more confusing is that, however, when you're looking at the schools, they keep the students at the school, but then they move it for the district. So it's really, really complicated and confusing.
Wait, say that one more time?
So let's say we have a student that we sent to San Mateo Union High School. They have their suspension rate. And what they do is, as a district, they count that student towards our accountability.
Oh, okay.
But if that student attends specifically Aragon High School will claim that student just for the school, but not for the district.
Okay. Okay, and are they doing that for districts that tend to send their kids away in order to kind of fudge those numbers?
They basically want wherever the federal dollars are
Go.
spent to go and get the accountability for it.
I mean, I understand what they're trying to do. I mean, that's really, okay.
So the results, again, like the dashboard is just one accountability measures. When we look at how we are doing as a district, we really should be combining it with other measures as well. Like, we should be looking at our local assessment data, we should be looking at teacher feedback. So this is just one slice of how we look at things. Before I start looking at the data, just a snapshot on 21-22. That's the number of the students that we had in 21-22. The socioeconomically disadvantaged with 30.8%, 15.6 English learners, and then 0.2 foster youth. And that's the snapshot for the student groups, also by race and ethnicity. So here's the overall status at a glance. As you can see, the one with the bars are the state indicators. So for suspension rate, we got a score of low, meaning that we had a low suspension rate. For English learner progress, it is also low. For graduation rate, it is medium. For college and career indicator, there is no data for the 22 dashboard, and I'll explain that in a little bit. For English language arts and mathematics, so ELA is medium, mathematics is low. The other ones are local indicators, and we met all of those standards because, again, one of the requirements for that is that it had to be presented to the board. So let's start with the suspension rate. It is low for our students. It is 3.4% suspended at least one day. Just to let you know that to calculate this, it has to be a full day. So a student could potentially add up like period after period after period, and then it will add up as one day. It is unduplicated, meaning that if a student has been suspended multiple times, then it will only count as one. Okay? Those are the student groups. It's broken down. As you can see, students are African American, Pacific Islander, and homeless have the very high suspension rates, and Asian student group have the lowest suspension rate. For the English learner progress indicator, so this basically measures how we as a district move our English learner towards English proficiency. This is measured by the LPAC, which is English Language Proficiency Assessments for California, and it has 4 levels. But however, for the dashboard, they split it into 6 different levels so that there is enough time for a student to move up 1 level. So the state's expectation is that a student moves from 1 to 2L to 2H, at least 1 level per year. So either they move up 1 year or they maintain a score of 4. Okay? So given that our percentage is low, only 43.2% of our students made progress or maintained a level of 4. But one thing to take into account is that participation rate. There is an expectation of 95% participation rate. So even if our English language proficiency score was 95%, it still would be low because we didn't meet the participation rate. So you'll see it's very, very important that our students take this assessment because we'll be stuck in low forever. Graduation rate. Graduation rate is about getting their traditional diploma within a certain time. So I said traditional because for this, they will not count students that got their GED or their high school proficiency exam or went to adult school or college or anything like that. So it has to be a traditional high school diploma. As you can see, there were 89.2% who graduated, which is a medium. And our very low student groups, again, are students with disabilities, and the highest are 2 or more races. Okay. The next one is academic performance. So this is broken down by English language arts and math. And this is measured by the student score, the distance of the student score from the standard. So there is like a standard threshold. And then what they do is that they look at the student's score and how far is that from that base level. How far is it up? How far is it down? And they take the average of all of that, and then they determine what the score is. So as you can see, it is, for the district, is 18.2 above the standard score, which is a medium. And again, I want to point out that for students with disabilities and our English learners, they're very low status, and then for Asian students, very high. Here's our math score. We scored 71.8 below the standard. So that is low, and is one of the areas of focus. And same student groups, students with disabilities, English learners, Hispanics are the ones that scored very low, and then no students scored in the very high status level. College and career indicator. So we're looking at class of 2022. Because we're looking at that, the class of 2022 did not take the Smarter Balance assessments in 21-22 because of the pandemic. Because college and career indicator, a couple of them relies on the Smarter Balance assessment scores, they were not able to determine whether a student is prepared or not prepared for college and career. So there's no status for this year. For next year, there will be a status, but no color. So for the college and career, the restart is for the 2023 dashboard. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the dashboard will help determine whether districts need assistance. So there are 3 categories: general assistance, differentiated assistance, and intensive intervention. So because there are no colors, the determination this year is that students that receive a very low status in at least 2 of the LCFF priorities. So for priority 4 and priority 5, our students with disabilities scored very low. So very, very likely our students with disabilities will qualify. We'll find out more next week from the county, but we're either continuing with differentiated assistance or intensive interventions because we've been in differentiated assistance for a while. Finally,
Explain what that means?
Say it again.
You just want to explain what those 2 things mean, like what's differentiated assistance and intensive intervention?
I don't know yet the
don't know
difference
yet?
between intensive, because we have not been there yet. But for differentiated assistance, what we do is we develop a plan on how we're going to address the needs of the students, and then we monitor carefully. And Ms. Presta and I meet with the county on a regular basis just to check in. District and school strategies. So pretty much everything that is on the LCAP addresses these state and local indicators. But I want to highlight a couple of things that I think we need to kind of improve for this year. So one is improved testing environment. Pretty much, the past 2 years, we've been, off and on school, just everything is just not normal. So we really need to make sure that our testing environment, that we get used to taking the test again like we used to before. We're setting our calendars several weeks earlier so that we can really prepare and catch up some of the students that we are not able to test, because before it was so crunched towards the end, and then there's AP testing, and then we don't meet our participation rate. We also need to improve our communication about the importance of these indicators and also testing, because a lot of our accountability is based on these measures. As you heard from our principals, they're developing their multi-tiered supports and systems. So they have their ways of addressing the academic, the behavior, and the social emotional needs of our students, and that needs to be continued and strengthened. Also, we just have to really make sure that we monitor student progress. So as you know, we now have local benchmark assessments that we look at, and we want to make sure that our students are taking that and that they're taking it seriously. The other thing is ensuring data quality and integrity. So a lot of this information is from our student information system. So we need to make sure that what we put in that SIS system is really clean and it is with integrity, because if not, whatever is there, it is what it is, even though it's not, it doesn't truly reflect, what we do for the district. And the last thing is that, so we are in another accountability monitoring for special education. So for about 7 to 8 months last school year, Directors Ventura, Lee, and I met with a technical assistance provider pretty much every week to go through root cause analysis of why our students with disabilities are not performing as well. Based on that, there are two root causes that came up over and over again. This is from empathy interviews from staff, from students. There were parent surveys. We looked at SPED files. It basically came down to mindset of the adults working in our district, and also training for our teachers and staff on having more flexible ways to adapt to the different ways students learn. So we developed a theory of action that was submitted and approved by the California Department of Education. And so it says, if the district, school leaders, and teachers challenge deficit-driven attitudes by designing universally designed, engaging, and supportive environments, then academic gaps will be reduced and students will feel that they are experts in their learning. This will result in an increase in the general education setting from 40.62% to 55% for students with disabilities in 2025, and there will be an increase in students with disabilities graduating from our schools from 70.7% to 80% in 2025. And some of the strategies are professional development for our administrators, including courageous conversation and dare to lead, professional development for our teachers and universal design for learning, constructing meaning grading for equity and ethnic studies pedagogy, develop the site equity teams, which we are working on through courageous conversation, and finally develop and implement a student study team and special education referral tracking system district-wide. So lots of work to do, but we are, we're here supporting each other. And then lastly, these are just resources. If you want to know more detailed information, the first link has all of the percentages, and then all the others are just resources. So that is it.
Thank you. Opening it up to the board for questions, comments.
Thank you.
As usual, very, oh my gosh, I'm sorry I didn't turn that off. It's Chewbacca. Really great presentation. I do have a question about, how do we monitor student progress? How would we, how often and how?
So right now, students are expected to take their Renaissance assessments 3 times a year, in the fall and in the winter and the spring. This is for English language arts and math. And what our teachers and our teachers on special assignments do is, looking at progress. That is one of our LCAP goals. Wherever they are, we want to make sure that they are improving, and if they're not, that system is actually tied to an intervention system where it will pinpoint the areas of need, and it's online again. And so students can work on it either during flex time, or a teacher might spend a little bit of time giving students some time to do a self-pace and assist students during the school day. The other thing, the monitoring, so it's not just that, but also making sure that transcript monitoring, making sure that students are placed in the right classes so that they are meeting, the college and career indicator. We want to avoid some situations where a student only needed a visual and performing arts in order to be A through G eligible. So there's that monitoring as well.
You're working closely with the counselors on that. Okay, thank you.
I have lots of questions, but I didn't send them ahead of time, so I may type them up and send them to you after this. But one of the things that just stood out to me is the African Americans and Pacific Islanders are not on graduation rate, and is that because there were none that year, or?
Graduation rate for, to count as to have a status level, you need at least 30 students in the group. And for that graduation rate, there was not enough. But I can give you some from our internal data system, but for the dashboard, it is not reported.
Okay. And again, the suspension rate, we're doing a lot of intervention and our suspension rate is lower, but the disproportionality hasn't changed. And so it's been the same since I've started my career as a school board member. And it hasn't changed. And, that's the thing I struggle with. When African Americans and Pacific Islanders are 1.3 and 0.7% of our population, but are showing up at 12 and 11% of the suspensions, it's just something that I feel like it needs to be highlighted so that we continue to try to tackle this situation. And then homeless, is that self-reported?
Yes.
And then we can talk later, but the LPAC situation to me just seems, so I'll just take this back up high level. If this is supposed to be easy for parents to understand, I'm blown away by this. I mean, it's just, it's similar to how we're funded. It was supposed to be simple, and then they keep adding these different things to it. How is a parent where English is not your first language supposed to understand the progress on this indicator with all these symbols and loops? Like, this is highly confusing. So that's just me ranting. And that's...
Oh, one thing I forgot, next, in 2 weeks, Dr. Robinson will be presenting more in depth on our English learner progress.
Okay.
But I do agree with you that it's very complicated and it's very nuanced because of how things are calculated. And also, the data in here is different from what is in DataQuest. And so it's...
Yeah.
Problem.
It's okay. And then I know that we worked really hard, and thank you for all the work that we did with the data in our special education and making sure that that was reflective and that the ongoing work. And so the question for me is just the data and where it comes from and how it's reflected. Part of it is DataQuest. Part of it is, it's just really confusing.
There's so many accountability pieces that we look at.
Right.
So, and there's, state requirements, there's federal requirements. I can't explain.
So, for me, it's one snapshot. This is not a tool that I use to make sweeping recommendations as a school board member. It's one snapshot, and things that stand out to me stand out. And I know that this is something that we have to do in order to whatever intensive is, to stay out of these things. But until the state can figure out what they want, it's hard for me to say dedicate a huge amount of time to shifting these numbers across the board. What is the state trying to figure out? And I think part of the problem is there's too many legislators, they throw too many laws on it, and everything that starts out simple becomes convoluted. So that's a long way of me saying, I don't know how much administrative time I want spent on trying to, we know where through multiple data points, we know where our issues are and where our successes are, and, not pouring too much into this. That's all.
I agree with the rant, though. I mean, it is the fact that you've had to decipher this for us, and we're still not quite there. And we've been, at least for some of us, we've been looking at this for a number of years, and we're still not sure what we're looking at. That doesn't bode well for the common parent. to me, the most important slide is probably that theory of action slide, where you talked about some of the plans, because as you read that out, it made me think about Mr. Aarons's presentation from Westmore 2 weeks ago with regards to just some of the changes in pedagogy that he was addressing at the school site because of WASC. And that's the type of thing that makes me hopeful that regardless of what the data says today, we're already making steps to try and improve the way we are teaching our students, and that I appreciate, and let's just keep doing that. I really,
To, college and career indicator. I think that is one of the most important things because at least we can see, they're moving our to and through, and we can see it clearly, but of course, it's not available.
and even the way those states defining what graduation is ridiculous. So that's my one rant.
Yeah, this is really frustrating document.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? All right. Thank you so much for that. We will move on to item 10C1, Terra Nova High School baseball and softball fields. Ms. Van Raphorst.
Thank you, President Lee. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to provide a little bit of background because we have new board members and we haven't talked about our bond funds in a little while. In November of 2020, voters approved $163 million of bond funds for construction and improvement of district facilities. We then hired HKIT architects to complete a facilities master plan with the goal of helping us decide how to best thoughtfully spend the money. And then this past April, HKIT brought their findings to the board, but it brought as many questions as it did answers. We learned that our facilities needs are greater than the money that we have. We also learned that we needed to do more research about the structural needs of some of our buildings. Since then, Ms. Phillips has been consulting with structural engineers and other experts about the buildings and the structural needs. Her and I have also been meeting with consultants to help us access state facilities funding. So hopefully we can bring some more money in to meet more of the needs. So she and I plan to bring you our recommendations for the entire bond fund expenditure and out planning probably by the end of March. But in the meantime, we're hoping to move forward with planning for improvements to the Terra Nova baseball and softball fields. The reason I would like you to discuss this now is because if we wait until March, we might have to wait a whole nother baseball season before we'll be able to replace the fields or displace the teams in order to do the work. And the reason I feel comfortable bringing this separately from the fuller discussion is because the replacement of these fields is very necessary and it's at the top of the list of facility priorities. It also is a relatively small portion of the money. The main problem with Terra Nova's fields is that they do not have proper drainage and they have an unrelenting problem with gophers.
All of Pacifica.
Right.
That's all it deals with.
So both of these
Unrelenting.
problems cause safety issues, and they require the constant attention of our grounds workers. The field is not only used by the Terra Nova baseball and softball teams, but when we can keep them functional, they're also used by our PE classes, and we rent the fields to the local Little League teams. So tonight I'm not asking for actual approval of anything, but for direction for Ms. Phillips and I to move forward with the bidding and planning processes for the replacement of these fields. Once there are contracts or bids, then those would come back for your consideration. We don't have a clear idea of the true costs until we get experts out to look at it, but we know that it will likely be more expensive than just switching the grass out for turf because of the drainage needs. So $5 million is an estimate that I've been using. I'm hopeful that that's on the high end, but that's what is before you tonight to discuss.
Questions, comments?
Definitely a safety issue, just having kids in elementary. I mean, they can't run in PE because there are gopher holes everywhere. But I don't know how you would get rid of gophers.
Away the food source.
So would So the process would be, you would, in order to get bids, they would have to go look at the site and see what needs to be done.
Yeah, most of the fields actually, I think all of the fields that we've replaced so far, we haven't done a full bid process, but used piggyback bids. So we've met with different vendors and they've come out and they've talked to us, but we haven't had to do full bids because of the piggyback process, which is where bids were done by a bunch of other school districts, and therefore there's like a pre-approval of certain types of fields, certain programs. So that's something we are considering, that it might not be a full RFP bidding process, but we might be able to use this piggyback process.
It would be faster.
It'd be faster, and it would be kind of products that are tested and proven to be successful in other school districts.
So the idea is to go turf with everything?
Correct. Yes. Like Westmore baseball and softball fields are now turf.
And that will help with the Gophers.
For sure.
Yeah.
Come up and grab, or they're not going to grab turf.
Well, you got to put the correct underlayment
Right,
underneath the turf
exactly.
to make that happen, yeah. Now, is there any issues with redirecting drainage to any surrounding areas because of all the water issues that you're having up there?
And that will be looked at through the DSA process. The Department of State Architects will have to review the project, and all of those things will be looked at.
I'm going to meet with an architect and a civil engineer and bring in experts to look at the drainage issue. I reached out to a architectural firm that did Half Moon Bay, and they had some severe drainage issues. And it was, I reached back out to them 15, 20 years later. Are you still happy with your fields? And they said yes. So I've reached out to that architect, that designer, to talk to them, and intend, provided that you say yes, move forward. I'll be talking to them and a geoengineer as well.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they could do something creative with getting some of that water and sourcing it some way.
Yeah, my understanding of it is right now that it currently drains to the middle, which is kind of awkward. So I don't know why that was done.
Awkward.
Yeah, I can see how that can get awkward.
Just splash
So
a big pool
I'd
in the
like
middle.
to find out why that was done, if it was just somebody MacGyvering something, or, I mean, honestly, I have no idea. So, yeah, I want to get it done and hopefully get it done right.
Questions or comments?
I got more questions. Why turf?
I guess primarily because of the gopher issue and the amount of work that our grounds folks have to put into the maintenance of the fields. We've seen it be successful at Westmore.
Yeah, I think it's easier to maintain. I don't think, you could use it more often. And when it rains a lot, I think they try to keep you off grass. I know from coaching soccer for so long, when the soccer fields got real muddy, they wouldn't let you play on them. Turf, they'd let you play on year round. So, I mean, there's advantages to it. I mean, grass is nice, but turf is pretty useful.
Well, especially even with droughts nowadays.
Routes too, yeah.
And having real grass versus.
The new turfs are pretty nice.
Yeah.
They've come a long way.
Yeah, I mean, Westmore's fields are really nice. Those are new. It's probably going to be similar product to what we used at the Terra Nova football field and Jefferson football field. Turf's come a long way.
Dante, you play on baseball fields.
Yeah, no, I guess not really a question. No, it is. And also a comment at the same time. So I noticed actually at Terra Nova, there was this thing that bothered me last year so much, and it's in the outfield, there's like a little like dip, and it's like an arch. So will that be fixed?
That's what I'm talking about. That's awkward, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, so that's it. So I don't know who did that, why they did that, but I just want to fix it and get get professionals in there to look at how we can divert the water off of the field and out, hopefully into storm drain.
Any other questions?
No, just, this sounds good to me.
Ms. Walker?
So is this going to be paid in a same or similar way that we paid for fields at Westmore?
Yes.
And is it about the same amount of money?
So we don't know how much money yet until we get people out there, but that's how we came up with the $5 million estimate, was based on what we paid for the Westmore fields. And then we added in a hefty chunk to cover the drainage issue.
There's the process Tina was talking about is called a CMAS, and it's a contract, it's a piggyback contract. And that kind of keeps everybody honest.
Make sure we have a competitive
And that we're getting
process.
competitive bids. And that's what I'm hoping to use for the actual field replacement. But the drainage issues, that's not something we can handle through a CMAS.
Are you asking, when you said, are we paying for it in the same way, do you mean bond funds, or what exactly do you mean by that question? I'm not sure if it was answered.
Funds coming from the same type of source.
Yeah.
That costs the district the same amount of money to acquire.
So
yes,
it would be voter-approved bond funds.
right.
Facilities. Yeah.
But it will be more expensive than Westmore because of the drainage issues.
Well,
Last question is kind of, how long do we expect the field to
work?
be effective? When are we going to need new turf?
So if it's properly maintained, the fields are expected to last at least 10 years.
Yeah, that's the lifespan.
And when
On a
we.
football field.
Right. And when you need to replace them, it's not usually the full cost again, because you're not replacing the infrastructure, just the turf itself, which we did recently at some of the football fields that were, and they lasted more than 10 years. I think they were like 12, 13
Yeah.
years.
Sounds good to me.
it sounds like there's a general consensus to move forward with, at least with just exploring. I mean, we're not approving anything
Yeah.
yet, other than sort of a nod to say, go check it out a little further.
I think we should check it out more thoroughly. And frankly, it sounds like a lot of money. Especially since right now, I don't know how many people it affects. And I don't know how many people get use of this field for 10 years for $5 million. And that's something we're going to have to figure out.
It's a good question. I think it's a discussion item, so we still have time, it's gonna come back. So if you have any other questions, or you wanna get any answers to other questions, we could find out that information and bring it back. Yeah.
What was the cost of the Westmore field?
Well, there were multiple fields.
Oh, I mean,
Yeah,
the-
because we did soccer as well,
Right,
remember?
Right, but I'm just thinking specifically about baseball, since I'm trying to.
I don't know
look
what
at
the
them one-to-one.
baseball was off the top of my head. I mean, ideally, what I'd like to do right now is go meet with the architect and the geoengineer and just get them to give me a rough idea of what we're talking about, dollar-wise. We're not, and a proposal from them for their work. So that's, I think, what we're looking for today. We're not looking for, but we can't move forward without understanding what's going on. So I think it would be good for us to do some more investigation, which is what I'm asking you to do.
Thanks. I also, sort of responding to Trustee Walker's, thought, I think we're starting from the place, like, we just sort of said, this is the top of the list, we have to replace it. So I just want to speak to like that sort of premise that we're starting with. Maybe there needs to be more discussion, right? So is it something that we think is something that we would want to spend whatever amount of money, $2 to $5 million on? If we don't replace the field, what is the consequence, you know? So are we going to not have baseball or softball at Terra Nova? Are we going to have baseball or softball, but they'll have to go to one of the other sites to play? Is there another, like you said, why turf? Like, might we want to replace it with a grass field? Like, is that cheaper? I don't, like, do we need to? So I'm just sort of throwing this all out there, right? Because they're going to go and do the work, move forward to have the engineers come and look at it. But maybe the underlying sort of premise is that we have a baseball team and a softball team, and we need a field, right? So we're kind of starting from that place. But maybe we need more discussion about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately you got your mission accomplished, right? It's now out in the open for us to discuss, so I think that's what needs to happen.
I'm of the mindset that, I mean, we definitely, I know how bad those fields are, so I'm in agreement with at least the plan that you're proposing, so we can at least see exactly how bad it is and what type of work really needs to be done. But fundamentally, it's still about the student safety out there, as well as the fact that this is still an outdoor classroom, when the teams are not playing. Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you very much. Moving on to item 11A1, Ed Services Revision of BP 6146.1 High School Graduation Requirements. Ms. Baca.
Again, this is an action item, which is a proposal to revise Board Policy 6146.1, which is the high school graduation requirements. And the main change and reason for this is that what Principal Bashirs was talking about earlier, to reduce the graduation credit requirement from 180 to 150 credits to align with the consortium of San Mateo County. And as I was reviewing the board policy, I noticed that there were several revisions from when this was last adopted in May of 2020. Some of the things that were left off were it did not have the graduation requirements for Thornton High School, so it was added there. It didn't have the graduation requirements for adult school, so it was also added there. There were also some language recommendations. So they don't want to use the word foreign language anymore. They change it to world language. And the other thing that is like partially there is ethnic studies. So I'm proposing, because of Oceana's model, to replace their world geography with ethnic studies, starting with the class of 2026. This board policy is going to come back before the end of the year, so that we can make a recommendation for the rest of the district as far as ethnic studies. So the law says that 2930 is when we should have this, like our graduating class of 2030 should have this as a graduation requirement, but we may want to see that much earlier. So this policy is gonna go again for approval in the next few months, but I am asking for approval so that we can assist with the adult transition of reducing their credits.
Comments or questions related to BP 6146.1? If not, then is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, thank you. All right, item 11B1, Provisional Internship Permit, PIP. Ms. Lujan.
Everyone, the item before you this evening is a provisional internship permit for Kellyanne Callahan. She is a special education teacher at Jefferson High School who is nearly done with her credential program, but she's not quite there. And so this permit would allow her to remain in the classroom, finish in the last few requirements, such as taking the RECA, which is an exam, and complete those requirements and then be recommended for her preliminary credential.
Comments, or is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve provisional internship permit?
Second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. And then item 11B2, application for variable term waiver. Ms. Lujan?
This is an application for a variable term waiver for Marissa Alcantara. She is a teacher who teaches Tagalog at Jefferson High School. She is a teacher from the Philippines who's credentialed in the Philippines, holds a master's, but due to the complexity of the California credentialing requirements, we're asking to waive some of those requirements so that she has time to meet those requirements.
Move to approve the application for a variable term waiver for Marissa Alcantara.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, great. 11C1, the 21 to 22 financial audit report. Ms. Van Raphorst?
President Lee, I am happy tonight to report to you that our audit for the 2021-2022 fiscal year contains no findings. We have a representative from Siobhan and Associates, Paul Pham, is here tonight to make a brief presentation.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys inviting me out to share with you the results of the June 30th, 2022 audit. I understand there's a few new members on the board here, so I wanted to take just a brief moment to kind of go over some of the auditing standards and scope and kind of our audit process just real quickly, just so that you can understand what we do and why we do it. So our audit, all school districts are required to have an annual audit. Part of our audit, we also audited the Proposition 39 bond measure program as well. And really the reason for that one is normally when an agency wants to pass any sort of a tax increase, you need a 2/3 majority. And with Proposition 39, it lowers that threshold down to 55%. And as a part of that, being able to pass those measures, there's certain requirements that have to be met. Part of which is you have to, develop establish a bond oversight committee and have an annual audit. So that's where we come into play with with respect to the bond measure. The state programs, we come in and audit that. With the federal awards that the districts got, anytime that you exceed $750,000 in federal awards, you're required to have a single audit. So our audit includes that as well. So for this year, the major program, the major federal program that we selected to audit was your ESSER program, so related to the COVID response, and then your National School Lunch Program. Well, as far as auditing standards, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, they issue statements on auditing standards that we adhere to in our audits. And because you guys are a local government, there's a Government Accountability Office that issues government auditing standards, which we adhere to as well. So uniform guidance, they kind of established the guidelines for your single audit. And the Education Audit Appeals Panel, they issue an audit guide every year on your state programs. And so we use that to incorporate into our audit there. As far as our audit process, we do it in phases. Last year, around springtime, we came out during the interim. And at that point, we really we were assessing your internal controls. We sampled some of your We documented your policies, procedures. We sampled some of the transactions, made sure that the internal controls that you guys have designed were properly implemented. We did some of the state compliance work for the federal compliance, the state programs, as well as the bond program, the bond measure program. So at the end of the year, after the districts close their books, we come back out. We do some standard procedures, making sure all the numbers and the balances are properly accounted for. Recorded in the right classification, cutoff, valuation, all kinds of stuff like that. So, and then we wrap up the rest of our compliance piece of our audit. Okay. So what I'd like to do next is just go right into some of the key financial highlights. And I have to admit, this year there was a lot of it. So bear with me through some of the technicalities here. But I think it's important for you to understand how all these big changes, what they mean to the district, how they impact the district. Normally there aren't that many figures to go through, but it's been an exciting year. So to start with, see if there's a way for me to scroll a little faster. Okay, there we go. Let me do this. Okay, so I can reference to you if you have a copy for yourself. This is table 1 of the management discussion and analysis, and so you can see here a lot of big changes there. If we look in the far column there, let me get that on my end as well. Okay, so what you see there is if you look at the capital assets there, it's gone up substantially, and that's expected, right? Because you've got the bond program going on, a lot of construction projects going on, so you expect your capital assets to go up. So that explains that large increase there. The one thing I wanted to point out is in your long-term liabilities, it's gone down a lot. And the reason for that is really with your pension plan. So your PERS and STIRS program. And also, if you look at the deferred inflows, that's gone up by, you're looking at $55.9 million. So I'll get into all of that. And overall, if you look at the bottom number there, the district's net position went up by $20.7 million. But just as you can see, you're still at a $38.7 million deficit. Okay, so I'm going to get into some of the details there so you can see the breakdown of some of that. And so let's start with the capital assets here, so you can see what's here. So here's your capital asset schedule. You see the work in progress. This is like the construction and project progress programs you guys have been going on. The decrease in here is just really your depreciation that you incur every year. So that's your capital assets, and overall increase of $38 million, like I was saying you would expect with an active bond program going on. So next I want to show you this long-term debt schedule. So the top line here with the bonds, this decrease in the bonds, that's just when your bonds become due. You guys are paying that down, so that's why there's that decrease. Net pension liability, so let me get a little bit into this one. So the way the pension plans work is the plans themselves, they hire people come in, crunch the numbers, do some valuations, and kind of give an estimate of what they expect the pension liability to be. They use information that's 2 years behind. They issue a report that is 1 year behind from what we use for our audit. So if you remember back 2 years ago, the stock market was on fire. You know, everything was up. And so because of that, all the contributions that the employees make, so the members, all the district makes, and the employer, and the state makes, those contributions get invested. And those investments, they grew, and those assets offset the liability. Therefore, you see the large decrease in the net pension liability. Okay, but take that with a grain of salt, because as we all remember, last year the stock market tanked, and so in fiscal year 23, you should expect to see a complete flip flop of that. Pension liability will go right back up. Okay, one other piece I wanted to point out related to that, if I can go back up to this schedule here, not that one, this one here. So the deferred inflow of resources there, where it went from $8.9 million up to $65 million. So whenever the actuaries get it wrong, right? When they prepare these valuations, they have assumptions. And one of the assumptions they make is what's the return on investment, right? And when the actual return on investments is different from what's expected, that difference, which they were way off, gets amortized over a 5-year period. And so that amortization hits your deferred inflow of resources. So what we would expect to see in fiscal year 23 is another offset to deferred inflows in the opposite direction. So that's how the deferred inflows comes into play with the net pension liability. But if you think about it, the two, they offset each other. But the bottom, what we should take away from this is take that decrease with a grain of salt and know that it's just a book entry due to market fluctuations, okay? And since we're on the topic of market fluctuations, I wanted to bring your attention to another thing that's fairly unique that we don't see, and that's going to be on your statement of activities right here. And so normally from year to year, you're required to present your investments at fair value, okay? And so The difference between your fair value and your carrying value is typically pretty immaterial. We don't normally record an adjustment, but if you see here in the interest, oh, I have a cursor. So right here, interest and investment earnings, it's a negative income. You've probably never seen that. Again, this is just the unrealized loss that you have in the money that you have in the county pool. But one thing I want to point out is that it's not unique to San Mateo County. Across the board, many other county districts and whatnot have seen this. The state LAIF pool has seen a decrease. So don't stress out about the county not properly managing the district funds. It's just how the market fluctuations have gone this time around. Okay. So the one other piece about your deferred inflows has to do with GASB 87. So this is a new accounting pronouncement that was implemented this last year, and it has to do with the way that we interpret leases and account for leases, and it impacted the district quite a bit. So if I could reference you to page 41. Okay, so it's going to cover a few pages. So I'm just taking you through it section by section so you can see. Okay, so the leases on note 4, one of the impact that it has on the district is you're going to see a lease receivable and deferred inflow of resources. So the deferred inflow of resource here, you can think of as kind of like an unearned revenue, right? It really just offsets the lease receivable. It's not a one-to-one offset, because your lease receivable is based on the payment schedule with interest and whatnot, whereas the deferred inflow of resources is a straight line amortization. So you're not going to see the two exactly off. And one of the things that came from the implementation is if you take the guidance and apply it retroactively, it gives you a prior period adjustment. So the impact to the district there is going to be your $41.1 million lease receivable, a $29 million deferred inflow of resources with a $11.9 million prior period adjustment. So one more thing I want to show you how that piece of it, and keep in mind what I just described there is on the lessor side. So the district is a lessor and a lessee. So you guys lease assets and you lease out assets as well. So both you guys are impacted on both ends of the transaction. So here, if you look, one more page. Okay, so if you look here, this is the general fund. And so most of you guys care about the funds more than the state or the government-wide. Here's your lease receivable. So now you've got this on your balance sheet of $41 million. Here's the deferred inflow of resources of 28.9. And then if I go down 2 pages, you'll see the prior period adjustment for the implementation right here. So the $11.9 million prior period adjustment. So that's how it impacts your general fund, okay? All right, so on the lessee side, so this is where you guys have a liability. I will show you. So what with this, what you see is you'll see a right-to-use asset right here. So this is a building that you guys are leasing, so you guys have a right to use this building. Okay, so this hits your capital asset schedule. And then on the flip side of that, let's see, it's note 7, page 43. Right. Okay, so here, you'll see the lease payable right there, okay? So that's how it impacts you guys on both sides of it. This doesn't impact your funds. These are long-term liabilities, so on the lessor side, you did see it hit the general fund. This does not impact your funds, so this is just on the government-wide statement. And this led to a $26,000 prior period adjustment on your government-wide statements. And so that's GASB 87, and that's going to apply going forward. So anytime you guys get new leases, any changes to your leases, Tina and her team, they're going to have to assess the impact of those leases on your financial statements and whatnot there. So All right, so sorry to get all technical with that one, but I figured it was important for you guys to know what those large changes were all about, because you're talking a lot of millions of dollars there. Okay, so to the fun stuff, we've got the funds, right? So that's what you guys care about, because that's what you guys deal with on a daily basis is the funds. And let me show you how that changed for the year. Right here. So, okay. So your general fund, that is up $19 million, which is largely impacted by that GASB 87 I showed you with the lease receivable. You've got the building fund, which is down $30 million, which you would expect because of the construction you guys have going on. You're spending down the cash for all the construction you're doing. The bond interest redemption fund, you saw a large payoff on some of the bonds as they matured. So that's just taking the money and paying off your debt. The special reserve fund for capital projects, again, you guys have a lot of construction projects going on, so it's expected that fund goes down. So overall, in the funds, you're down $33.9 million. So it seems like a big number, but expected, right? Okay, so lastly, I want to cover the general fund, because that's the district's main operating fund, and I'll show you how you guys are doing there. You guys are actually doing really well, so I want to show you. So you guys have something to be excited about. All right, right here. So this is the general fund. You see the 3-year trend from 2020, 21, and 22. So the last, if you look at there, the change in fund balance, the last 2 years, you guys are running at a surplus, $6 million, $7 million. So doing great. You look at your reserves, going from 4% to 11% to 21%. 21% is a great reserve, right? For being locally funded, where you guys are relying on property taxes can go up and down, right? And so having a good reserve can mitigate some of the risks in market volatility when you're relying so much on property values, for your revenues. But I know I've talked to Tina a little bit. It's not so impactful because you're kind of borderline, being a basic aid or locally funded. But nonetheless, great reserve. So the district's in good financial position, so I have nothing to worry about. Over the years, it's you can see it's getting better. So if there aren't any questions on the numbers themselves, I can go right into the audit results. Okay. All right, so the audit went very well for us. We issued clean opinions. So with respect to the financial statements, we issued an unmodified opinion, which basically means that the financial statements were presented fairly in all material respects. When it comes to your internal controls over financial reporting and compliance, our audit identified or did not identify any deficiencies in internal controls over financial reporting that we consider to be material weaknesses, and our test disclosed no instances of noncompliance or other matters that are required to be reported under government auditing standards. And when it comes to compliance, the district complied in all material respects to the compliance requirements of state programs. During the audit, we had no significant uncorrected adjustments, no difficulties with the audit, and no disagreements with management. So overall, job well done to the district overall. It is a team effort, with the compliance, it involves a lot of departments, ed services, business services, all that stuff. Even on the bond audit side, your construction department, those that handle your bid compliance, that kind of stuff. So everyone needs to kind of be on board with what the requirements are to have a nice, clean audit. So over the years, we've had some opportunities, and Tina and the district as a whole has really turned that around, really made great improvements, and to have a clean audit, definitely commendable. So, and I wanted to thank everybody for the help and assistance with the audit, because it's a lot of work. You guys got enough work here on your day-to-day stuff to have the auditors come in and, ask for things, So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, everybody.
Any other comments or questions?
I think my one comment is this is why I wanted audit committee, because this is, trying to get through this in 3.5 days that I have dedicated to read is a lot on top of all the other stuff that we have to read. So I absorb, now that I've been on the board for as long as I have, I absorb a good amount of it, but all the new stuff, I didn't even know what questions to formulate to ask, to get ahead of this. So I think it would be nice to have at least 2 board members that could have gone through this ahead of time to be well-versed on it, just because I just think that's good governance. So I'm excited for next year. And I thank the teams and everyone for the work that they did on this. It's always nice to have the audit come back clean. So thank you. And thank you for all your work.
Thank you for all the explanations. As this is an action item, is there a motion to approve the 2021-2022 financial audit report?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, don't go anywhere, Ms. Van Rapport. Item 11C2, such an amendment to the exclusive collaboration agreement with Eden Housing and Core Affordable Housing LLC.
Thank you again, President Lee. The board has approved this agreement twice. We are working on a more formal agreement with Eden and Core. There is no problem with the negotiations. I think that the delay is primarily due to the holidays and just getting time with our legal counsel and with their legal counsel. So I would ask that you approve a second extension tonight.
Comments or questions? Motion to approve?
Motion to approve the second amendment.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Thank you. Item 12, consideration of future agenda items. Ms. Presta.
So this is not actually a future agenda item, but something I forgot to say earlier, so will you allow me this?
Grant you this. I'll grant you this one time.
Thank you so much. I neglected to say at the beginning of the meeting to thank the school board members for their service, because January is School Board Appreciation Month. And I don't know that the general public just knows how much time you guys put in. It's not just coming to school board meetings, though that is a lot of time, actually. So, but you are on committees, you're helping with student advisory, you're coming on Saturdays for our own study sessions and to assist with other things in the county, and you're just generally involved in the community and looking out for the students and the staff and the community in general. And I know that I speak for my peers when I thank you, because we are so grateful to have you on board. So, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And Austin put up, I don't know if you noticed, because they're behind you, but created these lovely signs thanking you. Yeah, exactly. Your own baseball cards. I love that.
Yeah, we want the little one.
So thank you. Thank you. I meant to start off with the meeting saying that, and
Bobbleheads next.
thankfully remembered before the meeting ended, so.
All right, you're excused.
Okay,
Time.
thank you.
Thank you. All right,
I would, if we could add to a closed session, Superintendent Press's mid-year check-in.
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Sorry, can you repeat that?
Superintendent Press's mid-year check-in. So we,
Her performance review.
yeah,
Yeah,
mid-year,
mid-year.
the beginning of the year, before the school year started, we worked as a board to develop goals. And so I don't know if you've seen those yet. We can have them sent to you. But then it's just a check-in to see how Superintendent Press is doing and if we need to modify or change anything.
Okay, noted. All right. No memorials for the adjournment, so is there a motion to adjourn?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I have something that I left out during the school report. Something actually just came up at Westmore, something about the roof again. And I feel like that's been a chronic issue since like last year. Like if you recall, like the roof collapsed like sometime last year and it canceled some of our games. And tonight it literally like just collapsed during this meeting. And it kind of like, I feel like that's a big safety issue because it like this instance it did hurt someone and like they had to call an ambulance. So I feel like I don't know, it's just an acknowledgement of that. So like imagine, like it's kind of scary because like imagine that happens during like, a quad game against Jeff. And I feel like that's just a lot of people that, like the possibility of people getting injured. I don't know, that's something I just wanted to bring up because that incident like right now just reminded me of that.
Yeah. Thank you. And it happened during the meeting, and so Deputy Superintendent Van Raphorst and Stephanie Phillips and I have been texting, and we were going to fill the board in. But yeah, there was I don't even know all of the details, but there was the roof at the Westmore Gym, part of it fell down when there was a game going on. So we are on it, and we'll fill you in on details when we have more. But you're right, it is definitely a very important thing and something that we will fix. Yeah.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned at 9:15 PM.